something I did.
Welcome everybody to this week's edition of Big Effing Deal. I'm Tara Setmayer here with my fellow Jersey girl JoJo from Jers. We have a really great show for you guys today because when you're at war with Iran, it makes sense to have someone on with us because that's a big effing deal who actually knows what they're talking about with Iran and foreign policy. Coming up in a couple minutes, we're going to bring in Elise Labott, who is a global affairs journalist. She's my former colleague at CNN and now independent journalist who knows all the things. And we're going to dive into what the hell is happening because nobody seems to know. Not even Trump, not even anyone in his cabinet. I don't know. Why the hell are we at war with Iran? We're going to ask her.
Yeah, I mean, the target on that one keeps moving. I was laughing as we came in because he's holding court in Timu Versailles right now, and he literally said, "I have never had more compliments on something I did." He's talking about war with Iran. So if we have high oil prices for a little while, but as soon as this ends, these prices are going to drop, I believe, even lower than before. Big strong men, Tara. Big strong men with tears in their eyes. They're going up to him saying, Sir, I've never seen a greater war on Iran, sir. How do you do it, sir? I mean, it's just beyond.
It's so
beyond
absurd.
parody.
It's so absurd. And the sad part about this is that literally it's costing lives.
Yes.
Not just American lives, because already we've had service members killed in this operation, this war of choice. But people on the ground, it's just war isn't pretty. It's not a game. And This guy is so ill-equipped. This entire administration is so ill-equipped. Nobody's shedding a tear over the mullahs dying in Iran.
No.
But it like this now, why? I mean, it's crazy. So we have a couple of BFDs that we're going to talk about. Obviously, Iran is at the top of the list here. We have some other BFDs that are in the news. We're going to get into Hillary and Epstein and all the things because that is still happening despite the distractions. I have some thoughts on the religious aspect of this that's being brought into this war with Iran, which I think people should know about because it's a thing and it's not okay and it shouldn't be. But without further ado, let's bring in this week's BFD special guest, Elise Labott.
Hey guys.
Hi, Elise.
It's great to be with you. Even in the intro, there were so many things we were talking about, and I'm like, yeah. I'm so excited to be here as a fellow Jersey girl.
Yes, which is the added bonus here because most folks who watch us and follow us know that Joe and I are very proud Jersey girls. And until today, I didn't realize that you, in fact, are a Jersey girl as well. But you come from a part of Jersey that I say doesn't exist, but I call it South Jersey. It's South Jersey to me, but you are from Monmouth County. Yes, Elise?
That's right. And let's just admit, this is Springsteen country, okay? Bruce Springsteen grew up in Freehold, New Jersey, right. And he sings about Highway 9 and Freehold. I grew up in Marlboro, which is right next door. I mean, people think he's from Asbury Park. He's not. He's from Freehold. And yes, this is called South Central Jersey. People from South Jersey don't think there is a South Central, but it's very distinct. It's a thing.
People from North Jersey don't think there's such a thing as Central Jersey, period.
Correct.
I don't know if there is, but there is a South Central Jersey.
That's a new one.
That's a new one for me too.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask you this, because this is also, fighting words. What is the product that we would put on a hard roll, maybe with egg, maybe with cheese, definitely with a side of disco fries?
Yeah.
It's a pork
Disco
product.
fries.
What do you call that meat?
What do you call that meat? It's
I don't know.
It's a
I'm
blank
Jewish.
ham and cheese.
A bacon, egg, and cheese? A bacon, egg, and cheese.
Is it pork roll or Taylor ham?
Oh, pork roll.
Oh, she's South Jersey.
No!
It's South Jersey. That's it. That's the test.
Yeah.
That's the test.
I no longer care.
I never really, I would have a bacon. I'm more of a bacon, egg, and cheese, but if you called it anything, I never grew up with the word Taylor ham, so it's definitely pork roll. But
Then, yeah.
bacon, egg, and it's bacon, egg, and cheese.
South
Well,
Jersey
that's-
does.
But the disco fries, I'm sorry.
Okay,
At the
non-negotiable.
diner, the disco fries with the
That's
gravy,
universal.
forget about it.
All right,
It's universal, but the Taylor ham versus pork roll is the demarcation line for
Yes, it
us,
is.
whether you are from North or South Jersey. And there you have it, folks. So that's
Yes.
okay. We still
Look-
have a lot of Jersey girl energy going on here, and you're close to down the shore, which is
Yes.
my happy place and
That's right.
Joe's too.
That's right.
And we can settle these kinds of disputes, civilly.
Amicably.
Unlike Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu and God knows what they're up to, which is a good segue, right? Let's talk about this. I could call it the illegal war in Iran, right? By the way, I just should tell you, fangirling, like face to face with you, I was a huge fan of your coverage from your
Oh,
CNN
thank
days.
you.
You're a trusted voice. And so I'm so glad that you are here to join us, because I don't think the American people, I don't think this regime, but I don't think the American people have clue, one, what we're doing over there. And to Tara's point, we've now lost at least 6 service members, and people on the ground there in Iran and in these other countries around the region are losing their lives. But so what are we doing? What do you think
Yeah.
we are doing in this war right now?
Yeah. Why are we there?
So I was talking to Tara when we were getting ready, and I said, sooner or later, some U.S. president was going to have to engage with Israel, maybe not, in terms of going against Iran. It was just a matter of time, because not only they were, interested in building a nuclear weapon, but also, they are the biggest sponsor of terrorism. You know what I find really interesting is that the Democrats are falling over themselves to say, well, the supreme leader was a horrible guy and Iran is a horrible terrorist state, and no one's crying any tears for him. And then the Republicans are falling over themselves to say this is not a war and we're not at war. Both things, I'm sorry, both things are true. We are at war, and Iran is and was a terrorist state, and this guy was a horrible, leader of a terrorist state that is terrorizing the region, the world, and its people. So the problem that I have with this war is why we're going. It changes by the moment. Usually wars start with a very defined objective and kind of end with a question mark. Like, what's going to happen? You never know, because war is an unknown. It's like walking into a dark room. You don't know what's in there. But this one started with a question mark. And now the administration is throwing a lot of spaghetti at the wall. During January, during the protests, it was help is on the way. We're going to help the protesters. Then it was Iran is, we're negotiating with Iran on a nuclear weapon, but they're a week away from a nuclear weapon and we have to go after the nuclear program. Now it's Iran was going to hit us, so we might as well hit them beforehand. My personal feeling, and kind of reading now about how this came to be, Israel dragged us in. And again, I'm not saying that Iran didn't need to be tackled. Tara, you were mentioning the religious, and there is a religious angle about Israel and all. There's also a religious angle. It's Ramadan.
Yeah.
There was no imminent threat. They weren't about to launch a nuclear weapon. They can't even put a small nuclear warhead, they call it miniaturizing, on fit a nuclear warhead on a missile and hit it to the US. So there was no threat. Now Iran is terrorizing the region during the holiest month of Ramadan, where all of these Muslims should be having a happy time at home with their families. And now the whole region is terrorized, including, U.S. personnel and U.S. facilities and Americans abroad.
You bring up the point about how both things can be true at the same time, right? Democrats are making the point, which they need to, because of course Republicans are turning this around, saying, "Well, why aren't you cheerleading the fact that the supreme leader is killed? Are you okay? He was this," and it's like, no one is saying that. You have to preface it. It's all the time with no one is saying, just like the same thing with Maduro. No one is saying that Maduro was a good guy. However, how you get there matters. And what happened, and what your plan
is.
Exactly. Like, you just don't go in and start wars and to be like, well, we took out the bad guy, so what? Okay, Iran, it's on you now. We're out. Like, it feels so flippant, because they take a problem and that we all acknowledge, then they fuck up how they do it, And then they
Always.
turn around and blame
Always.
you for being not supportive of
Yeah.
that. Well, then you
It's
support
always.
same thing with the illegal immigration issue. It's the same thing.
150%.
Yep.
I always say, you know, if Donald Trump like just had these big ideas and then hired some competent people to execute them, you know what? Maybe he'd be, you know, more popular, because some of these ideas, whether it's, you know, curbing illegal migration, diversifying supply chains, and, you know, shoring up manufacturing here at home, getting rid of Maduro and reshaping Latin America, where, you know, previous presidents for decades have really ignored the region. Like, these things are not, in theory, bad.
Right.
But like, foreign policy doesn't operate in theory. It operates in execution, and the execution is always, always, always ass backwards.
Which, and in this case, as per usual with Trump, right? Like our friend Brooklyn Dad Defiant, he'll say, like, measure twice, cut once. They cut 10 times before if they ever measure. And so, right, in this particular case, as far as it goes with what happens next, they blew up all the potential lines of succession that they might have had, that they could have negotiated with. And then today, they had another strike where they were meeting to pick a new supreme leader, and they blew up everybody else. So now they're leaving themselves with no options, and what options they're probably leaving themselves with are going to be even more radical than the ones they've already killed. Like
and the most inexperienced, the youngest, right. You know, and also we'll get to the messaging after, because I mean, it's like yada yada yada. You know what I mean? Like, you can't yada 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 your way into a war. Emily Horn, who is a very good Substack spin class, I'm borrowing that line from her. I'm going to use it forever, because that's his whole way of discussing policy. Yada yada yada.
It's a great, that's Seinfeld, right?
Yeah, but what you're saying, Joe, is that, you know, he doesn't ever. It's like a big idea. Let's go. And he doesn't, and because everyone's listening to him, he doesn't have these, you know, like thought, planning, you know, logistics, all of that. It's just shoot from the hip and ask questions later. And the problem that I've always had with how this administration has dealt with Iran, even from the first term, they don't understand the region. They don't have experts that are dealing with this. Steve Witkoff, really a real estate agent, is the negotiator. Forget about Gaza. He wasn't 100% terrible in Gaza, but with Ukraine and Russia, and now with Iran, this is your negotiator for a nuclear deal with Iran. They don't have, you know, I know more about Iran than Steve Witkoff, and I don't know a ton. But, you know, there are experts that know about how Iran negotiates, what their red lines are, how, you know, what their rationale is. And, you know, none of this. And to let Israel kind of dictate how this is going to go, Israel is picking the leadership targets. The U.S. is picking the missile targets, the missile launchers, the nuclear sites. But Israel, I don't think the U.S. really wanted regime change, but Israel wants regime change. And we're letting Israel dictate what happens afterwards. And I think, you know, everyone's saying like, oh, rise up to the people, rise up, you know, take over your country. First of all, there's no leadership, okay? Organized leadership in the opposition. They're talking about this baby Shah, but he's more like a, you know, figurehead.
Doesn't he live in the Poconos? Or like the son of the Shah, isn't he?
He's like a bon vivant. He's going all over. He's in Mar-a-Lago. He's in the Poconos. He's in Europe. But there's no organized leadership in the opposition. And then, you know, the Iranian regime is not one man. It's not a dictatorship like Putin or Xi or, you know, it's a or MBS in Saudi. It's a system. And so you have the leadership council that they were voting today on the new supreme leader. Then you have like the clerics. Then you have the military. You have the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps. We keep hearing IRGC. These are the, you know, the real foreign militaries. And then you have what they call the Basij, which are the domestic militias cracking down on the people. So let's say there's no supreme leader anymore. And even if there is a new supreme leader, it doesn't change the military and the weapons that they have to go after the people. So if the people rise up, they don't have weapons. Trump is like, military, lay down your arms. Who are they going to lay them down to? There's no, organized opposition. And I was thinking today, like, there's no talk about funding the opposition. There's no talk about training the opposition. So you're basically saying to the people, go out in the street and, good luck. It's up to you now.
So there's just a couple quick points here that I'm glad that you brought up, that the resistance isn't organized and they're not armed, which is a big problem. You can't have a regime change without boots on the ground supporting the opposition, which is what every time we've done this hasn't worked out well. But you still have to have boots on the ground, which they're refusing to do. So, I mean, we don't want boots on the ground. And if you're going to put American boots on the ground, that needs to go before Congress, and the American people should have some say in that. Of course, we know that Donald Trump doesn't give two shits about Congress or war powers, which is why Joe said
Congress doesn't even give, the Republicans in Congress don't even give two shits about themselves.
Well, we could spend a whole show on how Congress has cut its own balls off in this whole situation.
I think they should go to the they should go to the Congress, but at this point, they've neutered and castrated themselves so much that why wouldn't he think he doesn't have to go to them? Because it should go.
Exactly.
And look at their responses.
Anyway.
The responses have shown him, the responses to this have been almost unilateral. Look at Lindsey Graham. It would be an honor to die. As an American, it would be an honor to die in this war for Trump.
And Cuba, you're next. Like, they have no problem just committing American lives.
This is Rubio's gift. Like, for all he's, for working 10 jobs, this is a gift he's going to get. But did you hear Lindsey Graham on Meet the Press the other day?
Yes.
So he's like, oh, the Middle East is going to be beautiful, and Saudi Arabia and Israel are going to join hands. Like, this is the Wizard of Oz. I wrote this. There's no like ding dong, the witch is dead moment where everybody gets together and like dances a jig. Like, there are no ruby slippers.
Well, we also heard this before. This is what we thought we were going to be greeted
hearts and flowers,
with hearts and flowers, right?
Yeah.
So again, we've all lived through this before, and that was when there actually was a case made, when we actually had the coalition of the willing. We went through the proper channels of getting the support we need, both domestic and internationally, in Iraq and Afghanistan. We can argue whether the intelligence was right and all that, and we don't want to relitigate that. But but at least they went through the process of how you're supposed to do it. This here is not that case. And when you brought up Steve Witkoff, I think it's important that people understand that not only was Israel dictating this, but the fact that the Saudis and others are involved in this here. You have Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, who are about business. This is about business, and they have very shady business deals going on here. MBS, the head of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, is best buddies with Jared Kushner. The Saudis have given billions of dollars to Kushner in business. They helped him buy EA Sports. They gave him $2 billion in his investment fund. Steve Witkoff and his sons have money in World Liberty Financial with the crypto scams going on with the Trumps. This is bad news.
But the Saudis, I mean, there was an erroneous from my report in the Washington Post that the Saudis tried to convince Trump to do this. They did not. They are very upset about this. I think the Israelis were the one that leaked it, so they didn't want to look like they were alone. But it is, I mean, actually, this is going to hurt Jared Kushner's business in Saudi, because you see what's happening in the region. Iran's not just retaliating against Israel or the U.S. This is a regime that has nothing to lose, and they are going for broke. They're going to fight to the finish, and they're going to try to take the region down with them. And so my feeling is, how do we save this? And what Trump could do is now all these other Gulf countries or whatever, they're going to try to join the fray now. This is a world war. Let's not kid ourselves.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And, if you do have like a coalition of the willing, like in Iraq or like in Libya or whatever, that is more planned out and more, what you really need to do is get rid of the Iranian missile launchers so they can't attack any of these countries. That's A. And then we could talk about like what else could Iran do? They could launch cyber attacks, and they could
That's my
launch
concern.
attacks against American terrorist attacks against Americans. Like you saw in Bulgaria in 2012, there was an attack on Israeli buses in Bulgaria, courtesy of the Iranians. So I'm concerned about, Americans. And while the military, even though Pete Hegseth is like,
Pig is right.
Saturday Night Live
Yeah,
skit,
pig works.
Pig works.
is
yeah.
I trust that the military knows what it's doing there, but I feel very uncomfortable with Kristi Noem. Forget about the immigration and everything. I feel very uncomfortable with Kristi Noem in charge of the securing the homeland and FBI. What's his bucket?
Kash Patel. Well,
Kash
that brings me
Patel.
to a question.
I feel very uncomfortable with this.
I mean, my God, like honestly, we got a kid's book author and a cosplaying freaking Botox Barbie in her side hustle, like in charge of this shit. But that brings me to an interesting question, just sidebar, because I wanted to ask you also about our stockpiles, because we're using a lot of our weapons restockpiles defending against these Iranian, short range missiles, which is a concern. All of this, the central question I always come back to is our national security. Our national security, like all of this is making all of us far less safe, both domestically and abroad. And one of these things that came up, Carol Lenning's reporting last week, we all know this, FBI director, I hate putting those words in front of him.
I
but,
know. What an embarrassment.
Someone calls him the 10,000 yard stare. I think he looks like he's always trying to smell his own farts. But Kash Patel fired a dozen FBI agents and staff as retribution for the Trump probe, for the documents case, right? He fired, I think, a dozen, maybe. I'm not sure.
Including Iran, including experts on Iran counterintelligence. Yeah.
That's the part. The group Patel targeted an elite counter-espionage unit that specializes in Iran. Help me understand that that's just a coincidence, that there is no connection.
Well, it's one hand isn't talking to the left hand. I don't even know that Pete Hegseth, like the amount of people in the room planning this operation was, in a normal government, you have an interagency process. It's like, the term interagency process is kind of boring, and wonky, but the National Security Advisor should be bringing all these people together, talking about the equities. How do we, this is what's happening. There's a task force set up like in the State Department for consular affairs. There's a lot of things that go on and everybody's ready to go and everyone's speaking from the same script. I doubt Kash Patel even knew that this was happening.
Are we sure though? I mean, I don't know. You think so?
I honestly
really just happenstance that it was
that a week
that he fired that he. Well, I mean, I don't know that the U.S. knew it was going to. I don't think it. I can't believe.
Either way, it's just as plausible. I think. You know what I mean?
No,
like he wouldn't.
If he knew we were going to war and we were going to have to, then that's like malpractice. If he did know, that's like impeachment.
Elise, they do impeachment level offenses every day. But this is, I'm not giving them any benefit of the doubt.
No, there's a difference between like incompetence and like, this is like, today the court, a court found the jury found this the parents of the shooting guilty.
Yeah.
That would be akin to that. He would be responsible for the death of American in a terrorist attack.
I have to say, Elise, I do not put anything past them. These people are very singularly focused on loyalty, on the corruption and the enrichment of Trump and his cronies. And they don't give a damn about honor or the American people or the Constitution or even what the consequences will be, because they think they're infallible thanks to the Supreme Court giving Trump immunity. So I would hope not, to be honest, that someone who swears an oath to uphold the Constitution wouldn't engage in that. But you're also talking about people.
You think that they knew that they were going to bomb Iran, but he said "fuck it" and fired these guys anyway.
Here's what I think, what is true now, right? Like
Yeah.
we don't.
But in any event, this is where we are. I mean,
Right. The fact that we've even debated is
And,
Yeah.
and incompetence would be a gift, right? Like if it were only incompetence, but we cannot suffer from a lack of imagination, to quote
yes,
someone.
as Michelle used to say. Yeah.
Used to say all the time. The thing is, like, I don't believe that any one thing that they ever do. Do I agree with you that they don't talk to each other? The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing.
For sure.
1000%. I
Yeah.
don't think Donald Trump cares about incompetence. I don't think they care about continuity. I don't think they care about being on the same page. I don't think they care about conveying any of this to the American people. But I will say that it always feels like any one action that they do has 9 tentacles in other nefarious
But they don't
intentions.
think of that. And let me say it this way, okay? Everybody is so like focused on pleasing Trump
Yes.
that they don't think of like how their job like would be affected if they take decision A. It's only about pleasing Trump,
That's
which
right.
makes me
That's
is a
why I think it's
conversation.
possible. Like
This is
maybe
I
Kash
get
Patel
what you're
didn't.
talking.
You know what I mean? Maybe
Yeah.
Kash Patel didn't come up with, oh, I
Yeah.
should do this. Somebody else told him fire
Yeah.
these people who does think about that, and he's
Well,
just such a
This
patsy.
is
He's
what
like,
I think.
okay,
There are
Yep.
so many people, and this is a conversation for another day. But how many things are being done in and I'm not giving Trump a pass here, but I'm saying if you pay fealty to Trump, you can do almost anything in this
Anything.
administration.
Pretty
Just don't, you
much.
And
can't
how
outside
many
him.
people are
Right.
taking things in his name
Right.
that he knows or doesn't know or doesn't think or doesn't, the synapses like don't he can't make these connections. Like I said, he's just a big thinker. How many people are taking actions in his name that have nothing to do with what Trump, you know what I mean? It's only about pleasing Trump. It's not about Trump said do this or do that. They're like, oh, this will make Trump happy. Let me do this. And then
That's
the
entire
consequence,
Republican Congress.
the consequences in this administration and for their policies elsewhere. Like, I don't really think Trump, told Elon Musk to fire the entire government. I think what's his name?
Russell Vogt.
Yeah.
Russ Vogt did.
So, and you think like Trump, like all this BS with Hegseth about shaving and beards and fat and this, like you think Trump cares about that?
No, he just said, give me generals that look like they're from Central Casting.
That's
Right.
So they take
so
that
what I'm
and
saying
run with it.
is like everyone's doing what they think Trump wants them to do to make themselves look good to them. But the
Mhm.
policies are the suffer is what I'm saying.
The one thing I will say that feels consistent anyway is one of their mandates, whether it's spoken or not, is that he wants chaos, that chaos serves his needs. And this is where I get worried, right? This is where my brain starts going, okay, well, if I add this 2 plus this 2 and carry this 4, it equals destabilized, democracy, which gives Donald
Mhm.
Trump the pretext for more overreach and more executive power, like an emergency power kind of scenario. And as
Yes.
we hurtle toward a midterm, he knows he is destined to lose, be on the losing end of every metric we've seen
Yeah.
everywhere all over this
Well, I
country
always
keeps
thought that
pointing
all
to
this
that.
stuff in Venezuela, going back to Venezuela,
Yeah.
and the gangs that were here, and it's an international threat. I always thought that there was a dotted line to the election.
It's a dotted line
there
to the election
definitely
to
is.
No, I
everything.
always thought that.
Yeah.
But now when you have like a World War III
Mhm.
and Americans are at war, and then you add that to what you just said, Joe, like, all of that stuff that you just said was dangerous in itself. Like,
Right.
we're just kind of not recovering, but we're just kind of things are just settling down a little bit from Minneapolis. And now we have this.
Well, we know why though. I mean, and we're
Yes.
going to talk about this after we're done with you here, Elise, but there is a through line here for the distraction part of it because no one has yet to offer an explanation for why now. And of course,
Mhm.
the poll numbers, the Epstein files were
Mhm.
beginning to ratchet up again, all the pressures of that, and Donald Trump's domestic agenda is cratering. And so what's the best thing to do to distract is you start a
Wag
war.
the dog.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely because no one, last week it was leaked that the Joint Chiefs, right? What's his name? Rajan Kane or
Raising Kane.
whatever the fuck the guy's name is,
Yeah.
right? That guy was like,
Mhm.
I don't know. Don't think so. Don't
Yeah.
think we should do this.
Yeah.
So
No,
you
yep.
know it's bad when the Joint Chiefs are starting to have to, because that's the only way you can get through to Trump is you have to leak it through the press.
Yeah.
So that was not an accident last week.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, you also talked about not feeling safe here domestically. That was the first thing I thought, because I'm like, listen, Iran is not Venezuela. It's not Iraq. It's not even the Taliban. They are much more sophisticated.
A
Mhm.
global
They are
terrorist state.
the global number one state sponsor of terrorism at multiple levels. They are good at, they've got weapons. They've got a lot of people, over 1 million people standing army. If you count all of their proxies. They have proxies also outside. You've
Mhm.
got the Houthis, you've got Hezbollah, you've got the militias in Syria and Iraq that are Iranian backed. You've got the sleeper cells across the world. You've got stuff going on here in the US, God knows what. And they have capabilities that other adversaries that Trump has gone after or tried to bully do not have. Like they don't fully appreciate that. And I'm very concerned about what happens here. You get a couple of rogue actors, you get a couple of people that decide they want to blow themselves up in Times Square, or there's a cyber attack on our power grid, or they all at the same time, God forbid, Trump declares a national emergency. We don't have elections.
Yep,
And you've got a
that's it.
22-year-old former fucking landscaper who's like the head of domestic terrorism at DHS.
God.
That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
And
bullshit.
with what
they've
was
gutted
saying
a
about
lot.
landscaping place
Yeah,
that he did.
Four
Oh,
Seasons.
4 Seasons.
Yeah,
But-
a
and
guy
they've gutted-
4 Seasons landscaping.
Right.
It was always planned.
Yeah, and they've gutted so many of these offices within our government, CIA, NSA. They've gutted the experts, the
Yeah.
the people.
That's what that's what I keep coming to. Like,
Yes.
they've gutted that. This administration despises expertise, knowledge, experience. Like, there's a reason.
Mhm.
Education. They want us like dumb, sitting home, like,
Yeah. Dumb,
watching.
poor, and unhealthy.
Yeah.
and
yeah.
not
I mean,
informed.
yeah.
And
But I will
uninformed.
let me look forward and see how this could end
Yes.
in the best case scenario.
Yes.
So, now you have that Iran has basically unleashed on the whole region. Okay. Like 12 countries in like 36 hours.
Yep. And you
You
wrote about
do
this in your Substack today, folks.
Yeah.
Make sure you go
Yeah,
check
and
out.
I'll
go
be writing
subscribe.
about it tomorrow on my kind of idea how I think that Trump can Israel reshape the Middle East after October 7th. They said, we're never going to let this happen again. Not only are we
Rightfully.
going to get rid of Hamas, but we're going to decimate Hezbollah. We're going to go after the Houthis, and we are going to weaken Iran. And
Yep.
you know what? They did that.
Yeah.
Whether
And that's not a bad thing.
Whether
right?
you agree with,
In my
how they
opinion.
handled it, Gaza is
Right.
like breaks
That's
my heart.
complicated. Yeah.
But they
that's
did
complicated.
reshape the Middle East in terms of weakening Iran and its proxies. Now, Trump has to not let Netanyahu finish this. Trump
Yeah.
has to get okay, so now Iran has unleashed across all of the Gulf. Now the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, where the Fifth Fleet is, Qatar. And now you're getting like France, Germany, the German chancellor is in the White House right now, kissing
Poor
Trump's
guy.
ass.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, thank you for letting me stay in your beautiful guest house.
I know.
Um,
It's so pathetic.
And
'cause you
Trump's
know what
like,
they
it's
think about
nice,
them.
isn't it?
Oh,
But yeah,
please.
but
Yeah, I
anyway,
spent 500 billion American tax dollars
if
fixing it
you
up.
get a coalition of the willing together to finish this off and to, get a fucking 20-point peace plan for Iran.
Good luck.
Okay.
Elise, you're talking about serious people doing serious things. They don't
But
exist.
you know
Who are
what?
those people?
I'm just saying this would be the best case scenario.
Right.
And if you get like these Gulf countries to say, okay, you know what, we're going to help Iran transition. And, I don't think like Lindsey Graham's, the mothership of terrorism may be sinking, but it depends how much of the region it takes down with it. You're still going to have the Palestinian conflict, but it will reshape the region in a way that, could be, the US might be able to kind of finally pivot away, because it'll be a lot with an Iran that's, at peace with its neighbors, the whole world changes, guys. And
I'm
there's
just
an
worried.
opportunity.
Me
There is
too.
an opportunity here. I don't know that this is the president to do it.
Right. That's the
No, but
But there
problem.
is an
Definitely
opportunity.
not.
Exactly.
That's the
I
problem.
don't know
This
that
is
this
not
is
the
the president to
administration
do it, but this is an opportunity.
I mean,
Well,
yes, hopefully, right? Just like it's an opportunity the way he's destabilizing our own democracy because it gives us a chance, right? Like anything that's shattered or burned down to the ground to rebuild it.
Well, and look,
even
our
stronger.
democracy was fragile beforehand, or it wouldn't have
Yeah.
been so vulnerable to
No.
elect a guy like this.
Absolutely. I just worry
You
what
know?
we're going to see in the interim period is
Yes.
what fills that void in places like Iran and what the implications of that space are for our safety, for the safety
Yes.
of all Americans, but for the safety of people in Iran and in the region, right? Like that's the part where I'm like, because we've talked about this, I know now quite a few times, but because he didn't go in with any kind of plan or exit
Mhm.
strategy or what to do after, there was never any consideration of that. What is going to happen in the time between now and when we get to that opportunity, I am very, very fearful. I'm very
Yep.
fearful of
Yep.
what is being born out of this
Remember
moment that is bad
when
for
you
us.
talk about this Iranian Shia crescent, and it was
Mhm.
like you had Shia, the whole thing is really about like Shia Islam versus Sunni Islam.
Right.
And you have small Shia minorities in a lot of these countries.
Mhm.
And Iran, the reason why Iran wanted like this dominance is because it wanted what they call a Shia crescent, which is a Shia state in Bahrain, in Iraq. There are these small, Shia minorities. Now you see Shia militias in some of these countries in
Yeah, like
Iraq,
Iraq and Syria.
and we could see it in Bahrain. We see it in Pakistan.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Rising up. And what I'm
Yes.
concerned is like what we saw with ISIS, and that was Sunni Islamic terrorism.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Are we going to see a Shia Islamic, wave of terrorism?
Right.
We don't know.
I mean,
Right.
they've martyred school children now. They murdered, assassinated his wife. The Ayatollah's wife. They've made
His daughter-in-law, his son-in-law. No one knows where the son is, though.
Oh,
Right. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
there's conflicting reports
He's
about
got,
that.
he's the corrupt one that has like hotels and assets all over the world, and he's nowhere to be found. If I were him, and I bet he did, I bet he got the fuck out of there.
he's probably
Mhm.
with Jeffrey Epstein somewhere.
Probably.
Or he's, making plans for the Trump Tower that he's going to manage somewhere and,
Yeah.
Or
In
the
Tehran.
next 9/11. There's that too.
there's that.
I bet you
Well-
any day we're going to hear about a Trump Tower in Tehran.
I
God.
mean, we already know about Gaza, and we already
Gaza.
know what's happening in Saudi Arabia and the UAE.
Yeah, Trump and
Qatar.
Netanyahu, they were eating hummus in Gaza on the beach. Now they're going to be in Tehran eating kebabs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's listen. That is next. You're right. So
Yeah.
so you guys heard it here first. So when Trump goes off on one of his tangents because he can't focus, and we all know that it's always about him. If he mentions a Trump Tower in Tehran,
Yep.
you heard it from Elise Lavitt here first on Big Effing Deal with Tara and Joe. Mark the clip.
Watch. Yeah.
Oh
Watch
my
that
gosh.
space.
Well, Elise, it has been really
So
great. We
good
could talk to
being
you
with you.
all day about this, but we're going to let you go. You have another Substack coming up with Barbara Starr, I believe. Yes.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yes, two powerhouse women who
God.
know their shit about the Department of Defense and foreign affairs, CNN expats who are doing great work. So make sure you support them. Make sure you support Elise, Cosmopolitics. Fantastic. We'll have you back to talk more.
Oh, it's great. I
suspect
think
that
this is
isn't
going to go
over,
on. This is going to go on for a while. I'll be back.
Unfortunately.
Oh, awesome. Thank you
Not
so much.
unfortunately to
All
have you
Such a-
back. Unfortunately, it's going to go on for a long time. But
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
thank
yeah,
you,
Great to be with you.
Elise.
Thank you. Bye. Barbara Starr, like I think Elise was also based out of the Pentagon. Like when I think about that, and I remember, I mean, Barbara Starr's a fixture, right?
Yes.
The fact that we saw Keg Breath's day drunken, abusive screed yesterday, and those not real reporters in that room, that they've chased out all of the good, real reporters from the Department of Defense as a child of a man who worked for the Department of Defense for almost 50 years. It breaks my heart that there are no truth tellers in that space right now. It's so
I know.
crucially important to have them there.
Yes.
And Barbara Starr is the OG, you know what I
She
mean?
is, and at a
Yeah.
time where there weren't that many women reporters on
Right.
that beat. Same thing with
Right.
Elise, like, they were kind of trailblazers in that space, and,
Yeah.
you know, to see the way that they were treated and what happened. I mean, yesterday with Hegseth, they actually did let a couple legit reporters
They
in,
did.
and then he chastised them, right? When the
Yes.
NBC reporter asked him a legit question, he
Yes.
was like, "Oh, fake news or NBC, blah, blah." It's just so, you
I
know.
think Sam actually has that clip.
No,
There was a
yes, let's play it.
clip. I don't know if Sam, Sam, I can't see our chat, unfortunately, but I sent it. I put it in the signal chat because we do all our war plans in there.
Yeah.
He doesn't
Yes.
have it. But
Oh,
there
that's
was
okay.
I tweeted this because you know that I'm a survivor of domestic abuse, and
Mhm.
there was that response when he said, "Did you hear what I said? Like, were you listening?" His tone, the way his face changed, the way his demeanor, his posture, everything, and he's already settled, in charges of this kind of thing. It
Mhm.
instantly triggered this response in me where it was like, it's look what you made me do.
Yes.
That's but you're right. They did have a few legitimate reporters in there. I mean, I guess launching an illegal war against Iran
Yeah.
reaches that bar of
Right. Oh, we'll
necessity.
let you guys in now.
Yeah. Yeah, you can sit there next to Laura Loomer and Matt Gates.
It's just speaking of that, actually, it's a good segue into my big effing deal this week because Laura Loomer and Marjorie Taylor Greene hate each other and got into quite the spat on Twitter. I mean, I believe
Mhm.
Marjorie Taylor Greene called her a bitch. I mean, well, let them fight.
Yeah.
But this whole thing going on now with, again, Venezuela kind of put another spotlight on this rift. We've been talking about
Mhm.
this for a while. The Epstein files and the way that they've mishandled that whole thing really started this rift that we saw over
Yep.
the summer. It's starting to happen because they promised it that was, they campaigned on it and the whole Epstein thing and the whole like QAnon stuff about pedophilia and all that. Like that was a big thing for MAGA people. And then they started questioning, on top of the fact that Donald Trump has basically betrayed them on lots of things domestic policy wise, right? Losing their farms and veterans getting screwed over because they decimated the VA and all of these
Mhm.
things that Trump promised that he's betrayed his own people on. The big beautiful betrayal bill where
Mhm.
they're cutting Medicaid and food assistance and all these things that people in red rural places actually depend on, cutting their rural hospitals, all these things, right? People are starting to go, well, wait a minute, that's not what you promised us. Well, the America First agenda, the no new wars guy, the I am the I want the peace Nobel Peace Prize guy is an awful big warmonger. He started more conflicts than any other president at this
Yep.
point in their presidency, and it has created another really serious rift with MAGA that I'm like, we haven't really seen this. When you've got people
Mhm.
like Matt Walsh,
Mhm.
Eric Prince,
Mhm.
Joe, you were on Piers Morgan yesterday, Jack Posobiec, they're all these guys who are MAGA that are really pissed off at Trump.
Yep.
Um, like, I think we have a couple clips of
Yep.
some of these people who are like, not so much. At least Eric Prince. Go ahead, Sam. Do we have his actual audio? No, no.
Mhm.
Okay. So there's an actual audio of where Eric Prince is talking. There's an interview on I believe it was Sunday, where he's not in favor, Eric Prince,
Eric
Blackwater,
Prince. Yeah.
guy who profits off of war.
Yep.
Okay. I tweeted it out and I was like, clearly somebody didn't get the contract. But
Mhm.
you have all of these people who are questioning the America First, including Marjorie Taylor Greene and all the rest of them, which you and I have talked about this. I think that they are going to branch off and become the America First party. MAGA
Yep.
is dead to them because
Yep.
Donald Trump has basically been so hypocritical on all the things they claim that how do
Right.
they stay MAGA? Well, what does MAGA even mean anymore? I
Right.
don't know.
Right.
But go ahead.
Well, I mean, and we've talked about this too, because this offshoot, this sequel, is
Yeah.
going to be so much more extreme. I
Mhm.
mean, we're talking about Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nick Fuentes, others like Matt Walsh, like you said, what they really want, this America First thing, is baked in so much more hate,
Yes.
xenophobia,
Yes.
white nationalism.
Mhm.
It's really, really scary stuff.
Mhm.
And it is not at all surprising that it would be. He does have the Eric Prince clip. I don't know if you want to play
Oh,
that now.
yeah, we can play it.
Yeah, let's play that, Sam.
I'm not happy about the whole thing. I don't think this was in America's interest. It's going to uncork a significant can of worms and chaos and destruction in Iran now. Who takes over? You still have tens, hundreds of thousands of IRGC people that will be positioning to be number 2, to be the next rulers of that country.
He's
Is
not
that wrong?
wrong.
Not a good guy, by the way. Right.
No.
No, and brother of fucking
Betsy
stupid
DeVos.
Betsy DeVos. And the Bears. They were shooting the Bears. But you're right about the contract thing. That guy isn't, nothing he does is coming from some deep conviction for our national security. It's probably the Kushners, the Witkoffs, and whoever else is profiting off of this shit.
Yep.
But he's also fairly extreme, and like, again,
Well, he also knows. I think
Right.
he also knows. He's a former, Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
He also knows what a quagmire it would be to have boots on the ground in
Right.
Iran. It's a country of 90 fucking million people.
Yes.
Like I
Yep.
said, this isn't Iraq. It's not
No.
Afghanistan. I mean,
Nope.
Afghanistan was problematic enough because it's got 4,500 different tribes. It's a tribal
Yep.
country. Like,
Yeah.
it's problematic enough, and rugged
Yep.
terrain. Iran is huge,
Mhm.
and they have a lot more guns. They're a lot more sophisticated. And even Eric Prince is kind of my point. Like, yes, I said tongue in cheek, he probably didn't get the contract, but even he knows
Yeah.
this isn't a good idea, folks. Not
No.
like this. What are we
Right.
doing?
Which again speaks to the fact that nothing Donald Trump does is ever actually motivated by the interests of the American people. Like,
Correct.
how many more data points do we need? Because they don't have a cogent explanation for why
Nope.
now. They keep saying, oh, 47 years of tyranny, and it's like, okay, you remember that, we all remember that you were already in the office once before, and why didn't you do this then? So
Right.
why now? Why have another president? Like every other president has
Exactly.
talked about it. Plus, there's no exit strategy. They're talking about different timelines: 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Well, the long term.
Trump changed the
Yes.
timeline when he was Donald Trump, for those who don't know, yesterday, Donald Trump spent most of the morning calling around individually to different journalists. He called Jake Tapper, he
Yeah.
called Kristen Welker, like he was calling all these different journalists, like 11 or 12 of them, and basically gave 11 or 12 different explanations and different timelines and motivations for why we did this now. I mean, we have the compilation. CNN did a good job. They put this together,
Yeah.
showing all the different explanations, because one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing, because
Nope.
Trump doesn't know what he's doing, because
Right.
it was impulsive. I think wag the dog situation to put the kibosh on everything else that's happening. But go ahead, play it, Sam.
We may have casualties. That often happens in war.
I don't know if this is technically a war.
We didn't start this war, but under President Trump, we are finishing it.
This isn't a war. We haven't declared war.
The Secretary of Defense, who calls himself the Secretary of War, said today this is a war.
We set the terms of this war from start to finish.
Nobody should classify this as war. It is combat operations.
War is hell and always will be.
Strategic strikes are not war.
I mean, it's like Veep and Idiocracy had a fucking baby, and then they let Pee Wee Herman raise it in Stephen Miller's basement. Okay, that's what we're talking about here, friends. Like, elect clowns, expect a motherfucking circus. Except that this circus happens to come with lives lost on the ground,
Yes.
lives lost of those who have signed up to serve our country, and those who, what are they? I heard Brett McGurk was on CNN last night. He was talking about, what are they telling those troops they are putting their lives on the line for? What are they telling them? Because you and I talked about this. There's some reporting, we don't have it all fully vetted, about the religious thing, where there's 110 ethics complaints because they're telling them that this is all divined by God. But like, there are deadly consequences. There's 6 families at least right now who are
Yes.
never going to have that key turn the door where their loved one is on the other side. There are brothers, sons, sisters, daughters. We had 3 F-15s to the tune of $90+ million each. Thank
Yep.
God those crews are okay. By the way,
Yes. And it was
shout
friendly
out
fire.
to that, right? The Kuwaitis, which is another clusterfuck. How does
Yep.
that happen?
And
But
also, it
shout
was
out,
reported that they were told that base where our troops were should not have been operational because they were concerned about the security apparatus there and the
mean,
fact that they were concentrated in one area too much. And sure as shit, look what happened. Go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry, Joe.
shout out to that badass F-15 pilot. Just get you when you had a family member of mine, let's just say, flew a jet, and one of her fellow crews had to eject. And what your body goes through, and that crew was not shot down. They had some kind of malfunction, but this one was shot down. And for her to be like walking through the sand, smile on her face, and thank you to the Kuwaitis who took care of our people. But again, deadly consequences. Like, this
Yes.
is a game of, and they're just all so deeply incompetent. But again, the core of this, Tara, is so important, and I just I don't understand. And this is why a lot of MAGA is even fracturing. How anyone can make the argument that any of this is better for any of us in any way, shape, or form. We're less safe. Everything here is more expensive. Look at the Dow; it's not over 50,000. Panny.
The Dow, Joe. But what about the Dow?
I mean,
this
what?
bitch.
How is any of this?
the
Not only is it
worst.
not America first, it is bad for us by every measurable statistic, and we are less safe here at home right now. We already saw what may or may not have been. They're not sure yet, but there's reporting that the shooting in Austin was
Right.
somehow connected to this. Then, I mean,
Which got suppressed, by the way. Because
yes, it
I was
did.
like, wait, what? Remember, I put it in the chat on
Yes,
Sunday
yes.
night. I was like, I'm sorry, excuse me. There was a mass shooting in
Yeah.
Austin on Saturday night.
Yep.
Why are we just hearing about this now?
Well,
And
yeah, I mean, well, with this FBI, you saw the reporting on what Kash Patel did in terms of Renee Good, that he didn't
Right.
he didn't want them to use the word victim. I would not be surprised if they had a hand in squashing what happened in Texas, which is,
I know.
Again, our hearts go out to
right.
those victims as well.
Terrible.
Horrible.
But
Yeah.
you worry, we can't trust anything that this government says. So
No.
I was like, when I saw the photo of the alleged shooter, I wondered if it was doctored. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. We can't trust anything. Nothing that comes.
Oh, wait, what are we hearing?
I don't
Am
know.
I hearing? Do you hear what I hear?
No,
Oh, I just heard like a voice from God. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, that was super weird. Okay.
I'm
Ignore me.
on my phone though because my camera decided to shit the bed right before we.
Oh,
we
that's
just
what
finished
happened,
the
folks. Just
recording.
so we were a couple minutes late because
Yeah,
Joe had
sorry.
technical difficulties, and that always happens when you're like getting ready to go live.
yeah.
Your phone or whatever happened. That was super weird. Anyway, ignoring us.
Did
The final thing I'll say on my BFD,
Yeah.
because I think we touched on this, but I think it's important for people to see. Joe, you asked the question, why, a lot of these troops are wondering why the hell, right? Because Brett McGurk was like, why the hell are they there? What is happening? What's the morale like? Well, there was a story today that we're not sure. We can't really source it, which is why we didn't bring it up right now, other than to say that it's going around that there were these ethics complaints being filed about this religious injection into this being a mission from God, that this is God's plan, and that there were commanders inside the military that were telling the troops that. Well, until I find another source that's like more mainstream news, I don't know if that's true or not. But I will tell you this, as someone who grew up in an evangelical church, I do know that for years, anything that happens with Israel or that part of the world has been preached about as being part of God's plan in the end times.
Mm-hmm.
This is real. And this is what's being preached from the pulpit of mega churches who support Donald Trump. And I found this, Sam, I really hope you got it because I put it in the chat right before we came on. Shout out to Mallory, actually, who pointed this out. You have John Hagee, who is problematic in and of himself of all the crazy things, but he runs a huge mega church and has a huge following and is all in for Trump and has been preaching a lot of this nonsense. And he put out a sermon about this whole thing happening in Iran is part of God's plan and that it's part of God's fury. Please tell me, Sam, you have the minute video of this. I think people need to see it.
that shook the world.
Join you right now with breaking news from the Middle East. Israel has launched preemptive airstrikes against the Islamic Republic of Iran.
The United States military began major combat operations in Iran.
Sirens are wailing, and prophecies written thousands of years ago are stepping onto the world stage. Explosions over Tehran, retaliatory strikes, nations choosing sides, and the world asks, is this just another war? History is not random. Empires will rise, empires will fall, but the word of God will stand forever. Iran, Israel, America, where are we in the unfolding plan of God?
And the Bible says, when you see these signs, lift up your heads and rejoice. Your redemption draweth nigh.
Guys, this is real. This is
Yes.
what they're doing. And this is what is being indoctrinated into millions of Christians who are justifying and rationalizing what Donald Trump is doing, that he is a freaking vessel of God.
Anointed by Jesus.
Yes. When you talk to, I know you're going to interview Denver Riggleman, Joe.
Mhm. Yeah,
When,
this
you know,
afternoon.
Denver is a very good friend, and Denver is also very familiar with this Christian nationalist fanaticism, that this is all they look at themselves as part of a holy war. And the danger of having people like this in power and access to power is that when you start putting it in terms of biblical terms, then that is all that they listen to. The Constitution doesn't matter. The rule of law, earthly law doesn't matter. And these are people that are all inside our Department of Defense now. We know that Pete Hegseth has had that extremist pastor, Doug Wilson, doing prayer sessions at the Pentagon.
Yeah.
We know Pete himself is a Christian nationalist. This is all very dangerous shit. And then there's a through line here with all of it. And so we need to reject that. And that I was put onto that from Mallory, my partner over there at Seneca Project. She's put it in our chat today, right before we came on air. And I was like, oh my God, she didn't even know that we had been talking about this. And it's from a Substack called Friendly Atheist. And John Pavlovitz, who I'm a huge fan of, if you guys don't listen to him or read him, please do. He is fantastic on the issue of the hypocrisy of the Christian evangelical church. He's my go-to on a lot of that stuff too.
Yeah, I will just say he did something I'm not particularly pleased with right now.
Oh no, what'd he do?
He said, he tweeted they should wrap the dead soldiers' bodies in the Epstein files.
Oh no. Okay. I mean, I think he took that too far. I don't agree with that.
No, and you know what? We can disagree with people, right? Like we can say that. Two things can be true at one time, right?
Yes.
You're not. I'm not. I will not discredit him and his expertise on this. I just wanted, since you said his name, I just wanted to shout that out because it was brought to my attention. It was brought to my attention. I did not see it. I've responded to it, and I said I agree that it went too far. I don't mean to step on your coattails there.
No.
That
He's very good on the evangelical calling them out stuff. And, you know, listen, all of us, some people say I went too far when I said that the East Wing of the White House reminded me of the Pentagon on 9/11, that I had a similar reaction. And even very close friends of mine said, come on, Tara, that's a bit too far comparing it to 9/11. And I stand on that. So it's okay.
And I'm pretty sure he hasn't taken it down, and he's entitled to his opinion. And these are very emotional issues. And so it's very emotional for me that I don't want to drag the dead, the heroes, the patriots of this war. But like, this is back to the whole evangelical thing. This is the intersection of Donald Trump, who is the least devout, right? This guy worships every Sunday at Our Lady of the Perpetual Mulligan. I mean, we're talking about a thrice married serial philanderer who has mocked the disabled and bragged about sexual assault. I mean, he couldn't name his favorite psalm from the Bible. When asked which was his favorite passage, he said both, all of them. I don't even know what he said. He is a-religious. 2 Corinthians, a-religious, amoral. He
never asked for forgiveness. Remember, he was asked
never asked for forgiveness.
Why? I've never done anything to ask for forgiveness.
Right. He is the embodiment of the 7 deadly sins. But what he is, right? He's an opportunist, and he will allow himself to be used to achieve the ends of both the Christian nationalist evangelicals and and Netanyahu, right? And what this is the intersection of all of those things. And Netanyahu's not an idiot. He also knows that Donald Trump will have the support from the evangelicals over here because it fits into their narrative, but it also fits into his, which is he's long wanted, regime change, so the fall of Iran, et cetera, et cetera. Plus, it helps him, he would hope, I think, politically, right? So that Donald Trump, once again, is showing that none of this is driven by his desire to actually serve the needs of the American people.
Correct.
Most politicians, I would argue, and then this is probably me being naive, but I would argue that most politicians go into politics with some intention of actually serving the people, like serving the needs of the constituents. Not
before
Donald Trump.
MAGA, right? Before MAGA, because now it's to serve the needs of MAGA.
Yes.
Okay. Like it's to serve the needs of Donald Trump, a lot of these people, and enrich themselves and become relevant in ways they never have before. It's not about serving the people, to the point where, just a quick aside. So today, obviously, is the primary in Texas and a couple other states. And John Cornyn, who's really not a MAGA guy, but has, is doing whatever he needs to do to try to get Donald Trump to endorse him because he wants to hold on to his seat because he's losing to Ken Paxton, who's a horrible person. Talk about, the byproduct of MAGA where there is no shame.
Right.
But John Cornyn did an ad where he talks all about how much he's been in office for 24 years. And by objective measures, people can say he's been a good senator for Texas, right? Take the policy differences aside.
He's not flying to Cancun in the middle of an ice storm.
Right. He's not Ted Cruz. Okay. He's actually like a serious legislator and, whatever. You could have policy differences, but like for the most part, he's been like a good senator for Texas, right? This guy did an entire ad talking about how much he has supported Donald Trump and how many times he's voted with Donald Trump. Doesn't mention Texas at all. Doesn't mention what he's done for the people of Texas. It was a whole 30-second ad about how much he's basically kissed Donald Trump's ass and supported Donald Trump.
That is so sad. That is so unbelievably sad. It is a cult. It is absolutely a cult. I mean, they've drawn themselves out of districts because they wanted to appease him. I mean, it's what's weird is that Texas Republicans aren't even that Trumpy. Like, it's super weird that that it's this culty, and that he's kind of an institutionalist. He comes from the old guard. He put his head in the sand on a lot of this.
He did.
Yeah, but this is such a sad commentary, and Ken Paxton is literally a fucking pig, and disgusting cretin. But like that is so sad, and he should be so ashamed.
I know it's just the lengths that these people go to debase themselves to stay in office is just unbelievable. I mean, the volumes, I hope we're still alive when the volumes are written about this period in history and what it says about these people, because it is not going to be kind to any of them.
As long as we don't get wiped out by either AI robots or a nuclear war.
I know.
I mean, there's an equal opportunity for both in the next 10 years.
Not if we can help it. We're trying our best to right this ship here. We're trying. That's why we're doing what we're doing.
And it's why we are also going to shout out some other heroes of this moment, right? Some other people who are doing the right thing. Love her or not love her. I mean, I know people that she can be a polarizing figure, but I think that Hillary Clinton is a goddamn badass warrior, right? And what.
I've had a change of heart. People know I was on the other side for years, and Hillary and the Clintons were public enemy number one, along with Nancy Pelosi and others. And I said this the other day. I actually apologized to Nancy Pelosi recently. I was down at UVA last Wednesday and Thursday for events for my UVA scholar stuff that I do there, and that's the first time I had a chance to actually spend time around Nancy Pelosi at length. And I have really grown to respect her as a politician, as a woman in this space, and in just the way in which she operates, and I saw how she interacts, and she's a force. She's an absolute force. And I apologized to her at the end of the event because it was an intimate dinner we had there with her, and she was interacting with students and stuff. And I said to her, I apologized for all the horrible things I ever said in the course of our political back and forth. I said, I have a complete different perspective now. And I said, even though I'm an independent now, but I caucus with the Democrats, and there's a lot of people could learn a lot from her, and how she has built her career and how she handled the Democrats. And I'll tell you what, now it's too bad that she's not in leadership now, because I think
Yeah.
the Democratic Party would be in a different place if she were
Yeah.
there. And the same transformation happened for me concerning Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
I have a whole new respect for her. I have a complete different perspective on her. All of our political differences aside, none of that fucking shit matters anymore.
No.
We would have been a much better country if she had been president of the United States in 2016.
Yeah, I'm going to be writing about this on my Substack today, in between my podcast with Denver and my
Yeah.
podcast with Miles Taylor later,
Yeah.
because I mean, Hillary Clinton this is like sort of the original sin here, right? Like when you think about all the things, I mean, we could argue that Al Gore that election was the original sin, but let's
Well,
park it, right?
I will never change my opinion about him.
Right,
We were
but
better off
let's-
with George.
We'll park it at Hillary. We'll split the difference and park it at Hillary.
yes.
Because when you think about the consequences of that election, and thanks to James Comey in large measure, not exclusively, but my God.
I know.
When you think about the consequences of him winning that election and the ripple effects on where we are now and what has happened to our country and how we got back here in 2024, she was eminently qualified for the job.
Yes.
She was a responsible, sane, articulate, intelligent, informed, aware public servant who adhered to the rule of law, who abided by the Constitution, who wanted to move this little experiment of ours forward, to continue to endeavor towards that perfect union. She believed in democratic principles. She didn't want to enrich herself in the office. She believed in foreign policy. She believed in our allyships. She believed in, we'll call her a war hawk, which is hilarious to me.
I mean, it's crazy. And she was an
Right.
institutionalist.
Yes. And I would say that the calculation on bringing her before this committee, like Comer et al. Did, was a huge misfire. But also, it's just such an egregiously misogynistic bullshit thing to do, that they bring the woman who's not even implicated in these files in to testify. She wanted to testify publicly, and they said no. How'd that work out for them? We have the clips now.
Yes.
But she testified even before Bill, and I'm not giving Bill a pass here. Bill didn't make the case for me that his hands are clean in this shit, and if anybody who raped kids needs to find the fuck out. But of course they bring Hillary in, and I just want to give her some props and some kudos. This woman is 80-something years old. She looked fabulous, by the way.
Great. She looked great.
So good.
She did.
And her hair was on point. But I want to just share some of these clips because like they thought this was going to go well for them. And what she did instead was she laid out so many reasonable arguments for why it's bullshit that she's in that chair, and it's bullshit that these Republicans are saying that they're speaking out for the survivors and standing up for the survivors. They didn't ask Alex Acosta one fucking question. Donald Trump's ass should be in that chair. Howard Lutnick's ass should be in that chair. Elon Musk's ass should be in that chair. All their names should be in that chair. Not Hillary Clinton, but Sam. Whichever clip you want to play first. I got two I want to show real fast. If we've got time, let's just roll the first one and then we'll talk about it.
Are incompetent and they are incapable of complying with the law that the Congress passed. We need to know that because they are falling down on the job. They have an FBI director who's more interested in drinking beer in a hockey dressing room after our team won the Olympics, rather than being responsive and complying with the law as it has been promulgated.
Yeah, let's show the next one real fast too. There's the second one, I think, is the one. Let's see what Sam has, because I really want to talk about this one.
Yeah.
Finally, do you think that Donald Trump should be deposed by this committee?
Absolutely. You know,
That's just the one.
I was a lawyer, and as a lawyer, you would look for pattern and practice. If you were deposing a witness in a case that you were trying, if you were in court, what did you know about this person? What you knew could influence how you questioned that person, how you tried the case. Donald Trump has been held civilly liable for sexual assault by a jury of his peers. 9 members of a jury found him liable in the sexual assault of E. Jean Carroll. That is behavior. That fits a pattern if one were looking for a pattern. He has also been convicted on 34 felony counts for attempting to hide his relationship with a escort and then to commit business fraud to prevent it from becoming public in the 2016 campaign, which was ultimately election interference. So if I were running the committee or I were involved in this investigation, I would be looking for people who maybe had some prior conduct that might be relevant to either money or crimes.
Yeah, I mean, again, she's sitting in that chair. Donald Trump is named almost as many times as Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Right.
And I mean, the only people who are named more than him are basically people who worked for Epstein at the time. They have decades and decades of connections. Girls were trafficked out of his stupid spa. There are at least four interviews with a witness whose sworn testimony outlines rape and physical assault that Donald Trump inflicted upon her, and Hillary Clinton is sitting in that chair.
Right, sitting in that chair, running a masterclass of how to handle these idiots and what they're doing. This is the woman who testified for 10 hours in the Benghazi hearing and didn't break a sweat. Okay, so she was like, you see, when she does this, when she puts her hand in her like this,
it's a gift.
You know that she's just like, these fucking idiots are never going to break me. You know what I mean? Like, you know it's coming. And the viral clip that went around of her losing it with them because stupid Lauren Boebert was taking photographs, which was a violation of the rules. And her attorney, Clinton's attorney, pointed out, like, excuse me, but you're taking photographs. And Hillary was like, basically like, what the fuck? You know what? I don't need this shit. I'm done. If you guys are breaking the rules, because this is what you people do. Like I was like, good for her. She was exactly right. And she, you know, it was, and then of course the right-wing media was like, oh, Hillary Clinton hysterical. No, she wasn't. She was righteously angry, called them out on being hypocrites and for breaking their own rules because she wanted to do it publicly.
Yep.
And that was exactly why. And then she said so. I'm the one who wanted to do it publicly. You people are the ones that wanted to do it like this, and you're breaking your own fucking rules. Good for her.
Yes, good for her. Props to her. Again,
she's not going to take any of their shit.
No, and it backfired. And I'm glad that those questions were put before them, because these are questions that they should be forced to answer. You cannot say you stand with the survivors when you only want accountability for some people. By the way, there's no accountability for anybody right now in this country. Not in this country.
Why is Howard Lutnick still our commerce secretary? That guy should be out on his ass.
Did you see his smug, stupid face at the stupid state of the stupid fucking union? Did you see him smiling as he walked up to John Roberts? Like, yeah, I fucked kids. What are you going to do about it? I'm here now. Honest to God, they're rubbing it in our faces, and it is up to us to put pressure on those Republicans. Look, I'm proud of Thomas Massie. I'm proud of Lauren Boebert and Nancy Mace and Marjorie Taylor Greene for being on the right side of this. But you can't hedge. And you can't be selective, and you can't bump up against Donald Trump and say, not that door. I'm not going in that door.
Right. No, I agree with you. I mean, I can't utter the words proud of them. I will say I am glad to see that they did the bare minimum of not rationalizing or supporting people who are predators. Okay. That it's the least of it. The fact that you get a gold star for standing up for the right side of sexual assault survivors and people who were raped, and I mean, like, that is the bare minimum, and that's a sad commentary in our country. And I've told you this before, and for us over at Seneca, we are going to make this an ongoing theme in our content during the midterms, challenging anyone that's in the swing districts where we can make a difference here in the election. But like, what side are you on? Either you are or you are not. There is no lukewarm here when it comes to this issue. And if you are not emphatically on the side of survivors and speaking out against this, You do not deserve to be in anyone's office. You do not deserve the trust of the American people or our tax dollars paying your salary. The end. The end.
Correct. And it's not going away. It's
No.
not going anywhere. There are all over the world right now. There are people, even in this country, in private industry and in academia, there are people who are paying the price. I'd
Yes,
argue in this
rightfully
country
so.
again. Yeah, not enough.
No.
We're seeing, arrests of former princes and former prime ministers abroad. We need that kind of accountability here, and the only way to get to that kind of accountability in this country right now, because we're not expecting Republicans to turn around and be heroes writ large, is to get out there and vote, to make your voices heard, to pressure whatever Republicans are wishy-washy on this shit, and to put that choice to them is exactly as Tara just laid out. That's
right.
it, because it's not going away. We're not going to let it go away.
No. And I'm sorry, but like economic issues and all of those things that are typically what motivates people, we get that because this is everyday life and we're all impacted by the kitchen table issues. Of course, we have to all survive. But this is how we got here in the fucking first place.
Yeah.
It was by casting aside character and truth and the Constitution and respecting our democracy. It was saying that, well, those things will be fine. I just don't like the way she laughs, and I don't like the way, whatever. But I'm gonna go with the guy that's going to make my gas cheaper. At what cost?
Right.
Okay. Look at what we're going through now. Not only are we paying a heavy price here in the United States, but now this fucking guy has potentially unleashed World War III because of why? Because people were too self-centered to stick to the fact that character matters and that upholding the Constitution matters. I mean, we really need to, that is something that the American people really need to face, because now look at what we're doing. Look at what we're paying, the price we're paying because of that. I'm sorry, nothing else matters but character at this point. And if you want people who have no character, who are dishonest, who are Nazis and white nationalists and racists and misogynists and religious zealots running our country because you want your fucking gas prices lower, we're in big trouble. I firmly believe there are more of us than there are of those people, but people need to be framed that way.
Not to mention the fact that gas prices are now higher.
Well, exactly. Yeah. How did that work out for you? And so are food prices, and so are your mortgages and everything else, you dumbasses.
And you're sicker and you're poor. Yeah, everything that everything that he promised you, he didn't deliver because he never planned on delivering it, because he never cared about you. He's never cared about you. He's never going to care about you. Character does matter. I would argue that Joe Biden's election was a referendum on the lack of character. Some people needed to put their hands back in that socket, stick the fork back in the socket. They needed to be reminded. Unfortunately, it's much worse this time than it was the first time around, and the rest of us are on this ride with you. So yes, character absolutely 100% matters. My God, we have seen every possible example of the lack of character embodied in this one creature, and it's to our great peril, and hopefully we survive it. Yes,
that's right. But that's what we're here for, is to bring it all back, right? We're trying to fight this freaking ship. So on that note, we want to thank everyone for joining us on this week's edition of Big Effing Deal. This is one of the newest shows on the Siren. So thank you for everyone that's joining us. Spread the word. Joe and I have been running around doing all kinds of things. Joe's had amazing interviews, and we're out here doing our best to defend democracy. And maybe when things slow down, maybe ever, I don't know, they almost never, we'll try to do this more than once a week, or have little BFDs as things go on. But it's just only with so many hours in a day, and there's only one of each of us. So for those who are like, why don't you guys do more of this? We're working on it. This is, we wanted to get it out there and start doing the show, but there's always more we can do and things we can improve on, and to spend more time with you guys and bring our perspective more often. So just make sure you like and subscribe. If you're able to have paid subscriptions, please do that. That helps fuel what we do. And, we're excited to be with you guys, and thank you for joining us on Big Effing Deal this week. Joe, any parting words?
Yes, thank you to everybody in the chat. I can't see the chat because unfortunately I'm on my phone and I don't know how to do that. But no, we are very excited to be getting this off the ground. It's something that is, well, the fulfillment of a dream probably of mine that I didn't even know that I had. Sidebar, I saw Tara in DC last week. We were at that State of the Swamp event, which is one of the reasons I couldn't join the BFD last week. And I got to hang out with Tara and Asha Rangappa. And I mean, I had never gotten a chance to tell Asha, but like Tara knows, and I've we talked about this many times. I've been very public about this, but Tara and Asha, they kept me basically literally alive because they were standing up there and speaking truth to power, and powerful voices, powerful female voices who were not afraid. And I was like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And I got to meet Asha for the first time, and we have a picture that we took together. And it was just like such a cool, crazy, amazing, humbling reminder of, you know, my personal story and you as my inspiration, and honestly as a lifeline that kept me alive, so that I was able to be here. I would have never imagined in 2018 when I was like, do I want to kill myself or do I want to keep moving? And that I would be looking at you across the screen on a podcast someday. I don't even know if I knew what podcasts were back then, but it's really a full circle moment. So
you know, I'm humbled. You know, I'm humbled by that, and I never take that for granted. And it's you know, it's interactions like that and people like you that kept me going, because this has been very hard for me as well. And the personal cost to this, and, you know, with everything, just, you know, career wise, financially, like safety of my family, like all of these things. But it's when I hear stories like yours and others, and then we're at events like that and people come up to me and tell me what an influence, it's like, I'm humbled by that. Like I'm still so moved by the fact that we have this ability to reach people, and now to, you know, and now to see, look at the influence that you have, Joe, and the lives you touch and the story. Like, this is what it's about. And that's why we do this. It's to make a difference. And I wear a bracelet that says you were made to make a difference. And that's every single one of us has a role to play in that. And so,
and who knows how many people are out there in the chat right now that need to feel seen so that they can keep going and that they keep fighting. So
that's right.
Yeah.
So
no ugly crying, but I did cry. So
oh my gosh, Joe.
It's a day ending in Y.
I know. That's all right. Because we do it from the heart, and that's the difference. We do it with heart. A lot of people do it for a business decision. We don't. And you know, we have to survive, but like we do it from the heart, and that's I think what sets us apart. And we hope that other people feel it. So
I agree.
On that note, we also curse from the heart too. So thank you for being part of Big Fucking Deal, because there's a lot of big fucking deals happening here. From one girl to another. We thank you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.